Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to the BetterHalf Show. My name is Godman Akinlabi. My friends call me PG. On this episode of the BetterHalf Show, we're going to be discussing flirting. Is it okay to flirt? Is it socially acceptable? Is it something that singles can do, but married people are not allowed? These and many more are the things we're going to be discussing today. It's going to be controversial, but it's going to be very interesting. So please stay with me. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Welcome back. It's a BetterHalf Show, and on the show today, we are discussing flirting. And I have with me Han, who is a communications practitioner, and I also have Tolu, who is an entrepreneur. Thank you for joining me on the show today. We will start out on the topic from the known to the unknown. I know that the topic of flirting it can be a controversial one because, some people say it's acceptable for singles to flirt. At least, how will you get people to notice you and all that? But before we get into all that, let's check out what the dictionary says about flirting. The dictionary definition of flirting is behave as though attracted to or trying to attract someone. That's to behave as though attracted to or trying to attract someone. But for amusement rather than with serious intention. It amused him to flirt with her. That's, like an example. So, just for amusement, behave as if you're attracted to somebody and all that, but you really did not mean it. Or maybe you're not even attracted. You're just playing around or fooling around, like they call it. So, guys, is it acceptable to flirt?
First, I'm going to say that this definition is news to me because that's not the way I've always seen flirting. So obviously, maybe my definition has been misconstrued. What people have eventually come to see that what people most of the time define as flirting is actually friendliness. When someone says this person flirts, I say, give an example, and then the person says something, and I'm thinking, that was just that person being friendly. So why are you calling the person a flirt? So this now saying you're attracted, and this just takes it to another dimension. It's news to me.
But that thing about the inconsistent, with what your real intention is. So, Lou, what do you say to that? Flirting, is a behavior that is inconsistent with your original intent and all that. Doesn't that make you a hypocrite?
Well, yeah, PG, that's, I think, is the crux of the matter. The fact that we're talking about intentions here. Because, I've been told by many people that I have flirtatious tendencies. However, I've come to accept it without being too controversial. Because for me, what it means to me is different from what people think.
So you got that feedback a lot?
Oh, yeah, I get it a lot.
So, is it okay for me to call you a flirt?
Well, you may, yeah.
All right.
However, what you say that is important to me is the intentions. Okay, so if you don't have any negative intentions, for instance. However, the dictionary says it amused him to flirt with her. Why not her with him? Because, I think it's both sides of the wrong. However, what I'm trying to say is my intentions are always clear. I always know the reasons why I do what I do. For instance, being very friendly or being over-friendly. It's never for negative intentions. It's always, for many times amusement, other times, other objectives. So I'm a flirt with intentions.
Flirt with intentions. That's really interesting. The way you're looking at Tolu, you are already wondering, is it okay to sit with this guy?
I know, right? I'm like, am I safe here?
but really, both of you, come across as being outgoing. Have you found yourself in a situation where your intentions look like is inconsistent, and all that. Have you been in that kind of
Oh,
situation?
yes, I have. I went for a wedding once, and generally, weddings are places where people let down their hair and just enjoy themselves. So I was enjoying the wedding, and a guy walks up to me, and he, says, "Is it okay to join the table?" And I'm like, "Okay," and then we start to talk. I enjoyed the conversation we had because we were talking about things, we're talking about politics, country, and all that. So it was a very interesting conversation. And then afterwards, he says, "Oh, can I have you?" And I'm like, "Yes, okay, no problem." I didn't think about it like, oh, there was anything more than what we had, And then the next day, he calls me up and he's trying to have a conversation about something else. And I'm thinking, okay, and he's trying to now do a proper date. And I'm like, I'm in a relationship with somebody else, and he gets offended. And I'm like, what did I say? Was I overly friendly? What did I do wrong that made him now think that, okay, I was being friendly because it was okay for him to date me?
Welcome back. It's still the BetterHalf show, and on this episode, we are discussing flirting. And I've been enjoying the conversation with my aspiring or soon-to-be certified flirt, if I can call Tolu that, and Han, who has been, neither here nor there on this topic. Okay, guys, both of you are married. And how long have you been married?
2.5 years.
2.5. And Tolu?
Going on 4 years.
Going on 4 years. So both of you are still relatively new in marriage, but you're at that stage where you actually need to start to set boundaries. For you, Tolu, who don't mind flirting, as a single person, you did a bit of that. Perhaps you're still doing a bit of that right now, but where do we draw the line now that both of you are married? For somebody who is engaged or married, where do you really have to, where are the boundaries when it comes to flirting? Yeah.
Okay, let me use a work environment to probably explain my opinion on this. When I was in an office before I got engaged, obviously, I used to, Friday nights, I was like, let's go for a movie or something. And it could be anybody. It could just be one guy in the office that he's just a friend and there's really nothing to it. And then we go for a movie, and then from there we'll both go to our houses and all of that. When I got engaged, it kind of changed because I didn't want a situation where it's now, you're not sure. When your fiancé or whoever it is trying to think of what is really the relationship between you and this person. So what I did was I tried to, if it was a friend that I really thought that brought value to some sort of area in my life, and I bring the person on and say, oh, this is this person. I'll introduce the person to my husband to be at the time. I'll say, oh, this is this person, he's this and that, so that when I say, for instance, Tunji said this, it's not like, who is Tunji? It's more like, oh, Abeg, let me even talk to Tunji, that kind of thing. So I try to create a rapport.
So creating some kind of relationship with the people that you are close to, or that you may be misconstrued to be flirting with, or stuff like that. What about you, Tolu?
Yes, for me also it's a similar experience. Before I got married, and even after I got married, I had loads of female friends. Maybe because my graduating class, there were more women than men, so I had loads of female friends. After I got married, and these are people that you've been with for 4 years, right? So you've pretty much become like friends and family. So my wife had to sort of accept the fact that I had loads of female friends. However, on my part, for instance, there's never been any time since I've known my wife where my phone was off limits. I always made sure that she had access to my phone. I always made sure that she sort of knew the people I was, communicating with at different times. One of the things that acts as a check for me many times is when I'm having a conversation or I see a relationship, I ask myself, am I comfortable discussing this relationship with my wife? Many of the times, the answer is no. So I say, you know what, this is not going to work. My wife is also not very fussy, but you also don't want to take advantage of that. You want to make sure that you're always transparent. You have your spouse's intentions, at heart.
So, but have you had any kind of situation before that your wife, just wasn't quite comfortable with your closeness to somebody, or the way you comport yourself or you carried yourself in a particular situation, knowing that you have a tendency to flirt?
Okay, is my wife watching this? Okay, so yes, absolutely. There have been many times, because also I find that as a good-looking young man, you get, Thank you, thank you. I mean, you get all this attention. So sometimes it's not even something that you do. It's just, some people just gravitate towards you. Also, because of the kind of work I do, I get to relate to people a lot. We do a lot of playing, a lot of friends. And so for that reason, I get a lot of, who is this person? Or someone is calling me maybe 4 or 5 times a day. She's like, this person. I say, this person, I met this person here and here. So I have to really say what the story was. So that next time the person calls, she understands what it is. So I get that a lot. But, because I'm able to always try and, open up to her to see, this person, this is a situation, this person has a huge crush. This person, so it's like, profiling, different people.
Really, I mean, I can feel you there. I mean, my wife is very pretty, and sometimes, when a guy is talking to my wife and it's going on and on and on and trying to be overly friendly, I just look at them. This must be a flirt. But I'm overcoming it after many years. You just need to be comfortable sometimes with somebody being themselves around your spouse. Sometimes some of them can be, trying to flirt, but some other times they're just being themselves. Now, let's move on. Flirting with danger. That's what I would call this particular thing I'm talking about right now. When people think that just because there's no physical closeness or anything, I'm talking social media, or with electronics generally, or telecommunication, where, text, WhatsApp, and Facebook, and the like, and people making comments, you're sending, all kinds of imagery, emoticons that communicate affection or something like that. What's your take on that?
Well, I've honestly had to deal with something like that. Okay, so let me give you a little scenario. What happened? I have a friend, and then she introduced me to her husband. Mm-hmm. And then we had to stay in the same apartment for a while. When I met the man, she had already told me some stories about some issues that they had. So I actually had a negative opinion about him when I met him. So I wasn't friendly in any way because I was like, this person has done this to my, I wasn't friendly. I eventually realized that this guy turns out to even be nicer than the friend that was complaining about him. He now starts to have conversations with me. Okay, let me give you an instance. He starts with a text, and she's aware. He starts with a text, and I'm like, your husband said this. So she's like, that's how he is. He talks to, And then one time, he sends a message and says, guess what? So I just got promoted. So I wasn't really sure where to place the conversation. Obviously, we're not in the same place, so it's not that we're seeing each other. It was just really on text. And then I sent a message to the wife. I'm like, congratulations on you people's promotion. No. And then she's saying, thank you for putting him in trouble because I was unaware. And I'm like, wow. Why did you first tell me that you got promoted and you forgot to tell your wife? So at that point, I'm like, I beg you, I don't understand what's going on here. Let's call this what it is.
That's red light there.
Or maybe he had sent her a message and he hadn't delivered. Yours delivered before hers.
How convenient.
Tolu, you're trying to make this excuse up for
networks,
your cohorts. Because obviously this guy also must be looking for something that is not missing. That's the way I see it.
You can't be too sure. I mean, I think one thing I've found generally is the standards are different for men and women. I think it's a cultural thing. I don't accept it, but I just find, for instance, you as a man, you get all these women talking to you, and it's somewhat okay. But a woman has so many men talking to her, it's like, what is wrong with this girl? For the guy, it's like, this guy is all right. But for the woman, it's not the same thing. So,
but is it really okay? Because
I don't accept. I don't think
it may be okay for the society culturally, but your wife will not find it funny. Nobody wants to share a spouse with the entire village.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but for instance, the work that I do, allows me to use social media a lot. It's part of the work that I do, so I'm always on there. So, for instance, you have sometimes to send messages to clients late into the night and things like that. Sometimes just trying to. Okay, so let me give you a typical example. I had this boss that I was working with, and because I was managing social media and stuff, we used to talk until very late into the night. Sometimes Skype, sometimes phone calls, sometimes emails, sometimes even WhatsApp. So, and for me, it was just work, right? Then one day, I was walking to our office, and our husband sees me and says, "Oh, hi, I hear you're doing very well. If I understand, you're my wife's new best friend." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not your wife's new best friend." So, for me, I didn't know what she was saying to her husband that made her feel I was his wife's best friend. But I realized that was The point that I had to slam the brake, turn off the ignition.
Yeah, I understand, but it's possible that the way some of your conversations have been ending, whether on social media or just chatting. You know, some people, they want to end a conversation, they say, okay, bye, sweetheart, I'll see you another time. Why should you call somebody,
my boss. Absolutely.
Somebody that is just a workmate, sweetheart? Darling, can you pass me that book? You know.
So are you saying endearments are not acceptable?
Exactly.
So, PJ, do you think endearments are not acceptable in the workplace?
I just feel that, what you hear so much enter your heart. If you hear sweetheart, 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 after a while, the person will become sweet to you. And then, when we get back, we will take this further in a different direction. Please stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back.